The storm outside had been raging for hours, but inside the small, dimly lit diner on the edge of the city, something far more powerful was unfolding, something that would change lives forever. It started with a pair of trembling old hands, a dropped spoon, and a young waitress who rushed across the room without hesitation. She knelt beside an elderly man whose stiff fingers refused to obey him, gently lifting the spoon back to his lips and feeding him with the kind of patience people rarely offer strangers anymore. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that the man's son, billionaire entrepreneur Aiden Hallstrom, had been standing silently in the corner, watching every second with a tightening chest and eyes that burned with memories he had spent years trying to bury. Before the story begins, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and good people who still exist in this world, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Aiden's life had been built on steel walls, business deals, and a fortune that demanded hardness from everyone who served it. But nothing had prepared him for the sight of his father, once a powerful military officer, now weakened by the aftermath of a stroke, being cared for by a complete stranger with more warmth than Aiden himself had shown in years. His father, Henry Hallstrom, had been the kind of man who filled rooms with authority, who trained his son to be disciplined, unbreakable, emotion-resistant. Aiden had modeled his entire empire on that philosophy, strength without softness. But seeing the shrunken version of the man who once towered over him, he felt something sharp and unfamiliar cracking open inside him. He had brought his father out for a rare meal, thinking it would help him feel normal again, but business calls had distracted him, and in those few minutes, the spoon had slipped from Henry's fingers and rolled across the table. And while Aiden was frozen with guilt, the waitress, Emily Lawson, had moved. Emily worked 3 jobs and slept 4 hours a night. She wasn't used to being seen. She lived on a kind of quiet autopilot that kept her going through endless bills, constant stress, and the emotional weight of supporting her younger brother, Noah, who had cerebral palsy. Every rupee she made went into medication, rent, therapy sessions, and the simple hope that Noah could live a life with dignity. She didn't help Henry for attention. She stepped in because she recognized the struggle in his shaking hands, the same struggle she saw every morning when she fed Noah breakfast, helping him guide the spoon to his mouth. Henry's soft attempt at a smile reminded her so much of her brother that her throat tightened. She treated him with tenderness because life had taught her the true meaning of compassion, even when the world ignored it. Aiden watched, and with every gentle movement of Emily's hands, every patient breath she took, every encouraging look she offered Henry, he felt something inside him shifting. He realized he didn't know when he had last shown anyone such humanity, let alone his own father. After his mother's death, father and son drifted apart emotionally, both drowning their grief in silence. Aiden built empires to distract himself. Henry buried his pain under strict discipline. By the time Henry's stroke struck, their bond had thinned into something fragile and nearly broken. Seeing Emily treat Henry with a love neither of them had shown each other in years made Aiden feel ashamed. Emily, unaware that she was being watched by the man whose last name was etched onto skyscrapers, continued helping Henry sip warm soup. She spoke softly, reassuring him that accidents happened, nobody was judging him, nobody was rushing him. Henry's eyes watered, not from weakness, but from the rare kindness he wasn't used to receiving outside his family. The diner staff rarely paid attention to him. Customers often stared with impatience. But Emily made him feel human again. Aiden finally stepped forward, intending to help, but something stopped him. Shame mixed with gratitude, and the mixture felt heavy. He hadn't been there when Henry needed him most. He had been attending award shows, international summits, product launches, everything the world prized, while his father fought battles alone. And here was a waitress, someone the world didn't value, doing what he should have done all along. For the first time in years, Aiden felt helpless. And in that helplessness, something in him cracked open. Emily soon realized the man she was helping wasn't just another customer but someone's deeply loved father. She looked up and caught Aiden's gaze, the pain in it, the storm in his eyes, the guilt he didn't bother to hide. She didn't know who he was, but she knew what he felt, because she had felt it herself. She gave him a small nod as if silently telling him he wasn't failing, that being human was enough. The nod hit him harder than any boardroom confrontation ever had. Aiden insisted on paying the bill but found that Emily had already covered Henry's meal from her own tip jar. She rarely had extra money, but something in her heart simply insisted. Kindness wasn't measured in what you had. It was measured in what you gave, even when you barely had anything. That gesture shattered Aiden's last layer of emotional armor. After dropping his father home, he spent the entire night thinking about her, about the value of humanity, about the kind of man he had become. He realized he needed, to do something meaningful, something that wasn't tied to profit, publicity, or reputation. The next morning, Aiden returned to the diner. Emily was wiping tables after a long shift, eyes tired but spirit somehow still bright. She tried to brush off his thanks, saying she had only done what anyone should do. But Aiden knew the truth. Very few people would have done it. He could see the exhaustion in her face, the struggles she carried quietly, the weight she hid behind her smile. He gently asked about her life, and though she didn't overshare, the truth slipped out in pieces. Her brother, her financial burden, her hope that someday things would get a little easier. Aiden listened, not as a billionaire used to getting information, but as a human being who wanted to understand. Over the next few days, Aiden returned again and again, partly to thank her, partly to reflect, and partly because Emily reminded him of everything he had lost in the pursuit of success. She was strong without being hardened, hopeful without being naive, kind despite having every reason not to be. She taught him things without even knowing she was teaching. She reminded him how to slow down, how to breathe, how to care, how to see people as people again. When Henry asked if he could go back to the diner just to see the nice girl with the gentle hands, Aiden felt something warm bloom inside him. Emily greeted Henry like an old friend. She remembered how he liked his tea slightly sweetened. She moved his chair so he would feel comfortable. She wiped away a drop of soup with the same respect she had shown the first night. Henry laughed for the first time in months. Aiden watched them and felt a kind of peace settle inside him. Days turned into weeks, and something deeper began forming. Not forced, not rushed, just naturally. Two people from opposite worlds drawn by a shared understanding of hardship and compassion. Aiden began helping Emily with small things, not out of pity, but out of admiration. He fixed the malfunctioning sign outside the diner. He donated anonymously to the therapy center where Noah received treatment. He even picked up Henry early from his caretaker just to bring him to the diner for a bit of warmth and laughter. Emily noticed all of it, though Aiden tried to hide it. And with each moment, her perception of him shifted. He wasn't just a rich man. He was a son trying to reconnect. A man trying to remember how to feel again. But life doesn't change without challenges. One day, Emily received a notice. Her landlord planned to increase rent. She could barely pay the current amount. She hid her tears at work, but Henry saw them. He reached out with his trembling hand and placed it over hers, whispering through halting words that she deserved better. Aiden watched this, and the final decision clicked into place. 2 days later, Emily received a call from Noah's therapy center. Someone had paid for an entire year of Noah's treatment in advance. She assumed it was a mistake, but the receptionist smiled and said that sometimes angels don't leave names. A few hours later, her landlord informed her that the rent issue had been resolved. The building had new ownership, and the new owner had reduced prices for struggling families in the neighborhood. She didn't know who had bought the building. But we do. Aiden didn't want credit. He wanted Emily to breathe again. He wanted her burdens to lighten. He wanted her to know she wasn't alone. But Emily eventually learned the truth from Henry, who had heard the staff mention Aiden's name at the therapy center. She confronted him gently, asking why he did so much for her and Noah. Aiden's answer wasn't polished or perfect. It came from a place of raw honesty. He said her kindness had saved his father, but more than that, it had saved him. She had reminded him that love, humanity, and compassion were worth more than money, titles, or power. He had been lost, and she had unknowingly shown him the way back. The realization brought Emily to tears. She wasn't used to being valued, to being seen this deeply. And in that moment, She understood something too. Aiden wasn't giving her charity. He was giving her gratitude, respect, and a chance at something beautiful. As months passed, their relationship grew quietly, steadily, like sunlight warming cold places inside both of them. Henry loved Emily like a daughter. Noah adored Aiden, who visited him often and surprised him with devices that made daily activities easier. The four of them became something like a small, imperfect, but hopeful family. For the first time in years, everyone felt whole again. And now, if this story has touched your heart even a little, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone you care about, subscribe to the channel, and tell us how it made you feel. Your support keeps these real, emotional stories alive. Before we end, take a moment and comment below something kind you wish for someone else today. Your words might inspire someone watching. In the end, Emily never expected anything from helping an old man struggling to eat. She didn't expect to change a billionaire's life. She didn't expect her world to shift so dramatically. Yet life has a way of surprising those who give without expecting. Aiden found love in the place he least imagined. Henry found dignity through kindness. Noah found hope through generosity. And Emily found the family she thought she had lost long ago. Some stories don't begin with grand gestures. They begin with a dropped spoon, a quiet act of compassion, and a heart brave enough to care.